Read my lips, brand new taxes, starving all the billionaires and neutering their Visa Maxes. Topple Congress off their axis, mobilize the homeless, give them axes, call it praxis. Chop a couple limbs off the legislative branches. We'll show you the difference between air as a human right and guaranteed oxygen access. Octogenarians who barely know what day it is are culling countless citizens while sitting on a dais made of ignorance that was built on the graves of the slaves made to labor for its self-declared significance. And all to build a Congress full of millionaires who make their fortunes insider trading while they shit on all the indigent. So I got a bone to pick with our leaders, and I'll start with the ligaments. Pick right through the muscle, dig the marrow out, and serve it to the unhoused millions living in their minivans or watching their belongings get evicted from their tenement. I have a dream where we breach the walls of Congress and just let them in. And what happens next will survive in only text, cause there won't be any evidence. There will only be that heavy kind of feeling that pervades a space where there has been a reckoning and you can feel its remnants. Let any man who enters seeking power know that those who came before him suffocated on their eminence. That there once was a seal on the wall, but we quartered it and scattered all the pieces that it might prevent its semblance. And so we end the great experiment. We'll take all your billions, leave you 2 coins for the ferryman. Leave you drifting on a Dutchman floating derelict among the wretched seraphim. For holy is the hand that wiped the land clean of those who pose as gentlemen. That's my time, honey, cue the thunderclap and strike the theremin. And so we end the great experiment.
Good morning, Sunday morning. Good morning, Sunday morning.
We're 40 Sunday mornings out from normal, and the world is not the same. Said you waited for a warning, but the warning never came. Don't shine a light in my face. Nancy gonna cut you a check too late. 2 years after your funeral's paid, 2 years after the grave, she'll be a little stronger for all of the dollars she saved. Watching you wake, watching you cling to your family slipping away. Watch her do nothing but pray. Watch her condemn the Republicans, take them to brunch and then shrug it away. Now watch us be outraged half of a day, then pick a new hero to face our leaders and think they could beat them, playing the game they played since Pelosi had real human blood in her veins. They're all one and the same, sold off stocks and they all maintain that the risk was benign and the virus was tame. Flash forward and 40 Sunday mornings fade, 250,000 people in its wake, and the cruise ship sailed today. So motherfucker, don't shine a light in my face. Wait.
Good morning, Sunday morning. Good morning,
Wait.
Sunday morning.
Wait. We're 40 Sunday mornings out from normal, and the world is not the same. Said you waited for a warning, but the warning never came. perfect time for you to burn the bridge to self-forgiveness. Now's the chance, take a stand, stay your hand before you cast another vote for corporate interest. Another vote that chokes your hopes of owning your own home or opening a business. They love to say their hands were tied, the stars just weren't aligned for them to get their votes in line to see their promises delivered. But they killed it in an instant. Bills don't die by accident, they're all assassinated on behalf of the congressionally kismet. By some lobbyists who see themselves as agents of clandestine fate, not fences in a prison. Dealing in the stolen goods of sleeping slaves and trading on the futures of their children. Betting on a spread of daily dead where every grave's creating profit by the millions. For some fascists lurking in the wings and all of their affiliates. And every Etna demigod our senators conduct their darkest dealings with. It really gets impossible to document or fingerprint. Cause it isn't just a pattern of corruption, it's the very fabric making up the structure of the system that we're living in. So dash your hopes and down a margarita goes. You box the shadows, take a little nap, and then you get back in and swing again. But if the margarita made you sick, you probably wouldn't take a drink again. So if you're voting either party, honey, think again. I recommend you steel your nerves and never serve an officer, a president, a despot, or a king again. And mark my words, the day will come where we will rise and sing again. And if voting makes you sick, well, no one's forcing you to drink again. I didn't have to wait for long. I never had to change a song. I just sing it like a raised lawn. Smile when you say I'm wrong. I can't even fade the song. Can't fake while you play the charms. And I don't know the page we're on, but this is where you say you're wrong. This is where you finally admit you weren't ignorant. You boldly voted Joe like an informed and blissful idiot. You chose to blur the parts of Biden you don't find the prettiest.
Who are these people?
Who are these people? Hi, everybody. It's Indy, and I got Reef here because it's Sunday and it's How Do We Miss That? And this is what we do Sunday nights. And I'm glad you guys are hanging out with us. Thank you to everyone who is. Good to see everyone. It's been a hell of a week.
Oh,
Just
it's a Sunday.
Is it? Who is that? Did somebody break into our live stream?
Just a fucking lady. Oh fuck! It's a Sunday.
Oh, okay. I did not realize. That might be why. Virtual cable on, and maybe that might be why it was so damn loud. That's a little better. Okay, so we are here to do some stories. Well, actually, yes. To Hops down in Australia, it's fucking Monday, cunts. That's right, because he's in Australia, so he's actually 12 hours ahead of us, or 13, something like that. But yeah, this is Indie News Network. You haven't seen nearly as much of us as, I guess, usual, because Reef's been off with Colin. Reef's been off having vacationing. Colin was in the UK, and now he's back. So we're excited to get INN News going next on Wednesday night, right? So that'll be back.
Yeah.
We also have we've been doing one-on-ones in the meantime. So if you've seen my one-on-ones with Descent and Bloom, those have been great. We also did a rewind stream. I think that was basically all the weeks that you guys were gone. So we had something covered for everyone to watch. And we did a Killer Jesse thing on Sunday night. On Friday night, we did a covers, and there were some amazing cover songs in there. So if you have not checked out American Tradition Clip Show, do that on Rumble, on YouTube. I'm going to be publishing the replay over at INN Newsletter, and there's a playlist for those Clip Show concerts. It's great. And then, yeah, tonight after this, we're going to be going uncensored. So boat smashing it on the boats. we're going to be doing no YouTube. Basically, uncensored means no YouTube. So we'll be doing some different stuff that we can't do on YouTube because they'll whack us for it. So we'll be everywhere else. We'll be on INN Newsletter. We'll be on Rumble primarily.
Fucking whacked.
You know, we'll be on Rumble primarily on the Ocho on Rumble. So that's rumble.com/c/INN8 the Ocho. And we'll drop the link in before the show starts. And we can't even redirect because it's not within YouTube. So that's interesting. But yeah, this is our, the last Sunday of every month is an uncensored Boats. So Reef curates a bunch of stuff that he can't show the other 3 weeks or 4 weeks in this case. So we saved it all up for tonight. In the meantime, I've got some horrific news because it's Sunday night and that's what we do here. Unfortunately, most people cover the distraction news and the drama news, and we kind of cover the stuff that nobody else really wants to talk about, but it's really important to be talked about. We're going to talk about criminalizing homelessness. And they talked about it a little bit this week because of what Trump wanted to pass. We're going to get into that. We got a pretty long Fuck Israel segment again this week, just like we did last week, because they are advancing their quote unquote final solution. And we're seeing extermination in real time, starvation in real time. Well, you have Ziobots all over the place denying it, all over Substack and Twitter and Blue Sky, going, there's nobody starving. That's all Hamas. Hamas is preventing the food from getting to the people, let alone the Gaza Health Foundation, whatever they call that crap, and the IDF firing at people. And I've got a whistleblower admitting that yes, they were fucking doing it the whole time. Of course they were. And then we're going to talk about some crypto and Epstein. Like, a lot of people talk about Epstein, but not a lot of people talk about Epstein and crypto. So we're going to talk about that. And a journalist captured and arrested by ICE, an American citizen journalist captured and arrested and imprisoned by ICE. And a lot of people have not really heard about that, but that scares the shit out of me because it's coming. And then we've got a lightning round, and then we will get to Boats. So we got a lot to get to. Let's do it. All right. Before you can, let me hit this one. Hook us up if you can, because we are user funded. Take care of the independent media that you want to see. Support it. Ways to do that are Cash App, $ Indie News Network. Natalie Williams hooked us up there this week. Ko-fi.com/Indie News Network. We got a couple of them this week. PayPal.me/Indie News Network. Margaret Villa hooked us up with one of those this week. Thank you so much. IndieNewsNow.com. And I am so sorry, but Lisa Ayasi, thank you. Really, thank you, because you actually contributed directly through IndieNewsNow.com. So bless you for that. Thank you for showing me it works and for doing that. I didn't get an alert, but I went back and I looked. I'm like, oh, crap, look at, thank you. That's what we want you to do. Thank you. And then finally, the newsletters. INNNewsletter.com, where we'll be streaming Boats later, and we put out a daily and a weekly update. And IndieMediaToday.com, where we are live right now, and got another new monthly subscriber there. Monthly. It was Descent in Bloom, who we're going to cover her story tonight. Really appreciate her support. And at INN Newsletter, we did get a new supporter this week, Shirley Cooper. You see her added to the board. Shirley, you can't be serious. I am, but do call her Shirley, and thank you, Shirley, for supporting independent media. So it was a heck of a week. Thank you, everyone. Really, that's nice, and we could use a few more of those. Support independent media. Again, corporate media is absolute dog shit. We've had a couple of people say some really nice things about us and the integrity that we bring here, and the fact that we really work hard to pick stories and not follow the algorithm and not chase drama and not fill this with crap that we're not going to look back on a year from now and be like, nah, I'm not so sure about that. So again, thank you for helping us do all of that. So first story I wanted to get to is Descent in Bloom, as I mentioned, the newest subscriber to Indie Media Today. Again, friend of mine. Thank you. Really appreciate that. She wrote an article this week, and she just kind of threw it out there on I don't know, it was a Friday morning, and I had to message her and be like, God damn you, like, how do you do this? Like, she's making videos, she's writing a whole bunch of articles, she's working, she's momming, she's doing all, and then she puts something like this together. The government can now lock you up for being poor, sick, or addicted. They're not fixing homelessness, they're disappearing the people who remind them it exists. Right? And this is a theme that we've been talking about for a long time. We talked about criminalizing homelessness. I had a conversation with Keith McHenry, right, about last year. You know, that's one of the conversations I'm most proud of, co-founder of Food Not Bombs, about the homelessness problem, specifically in California, and how he's seen it explode everywhere basically since COVID started. So this is, again, a worrisome thing because I feel like they are pricing a lot of people out of being able to even afford a home. There's a lot more people that are living out of their cars from what I've been hearing. And now they're doing this, which is the Trump thing that he signed to get them off the streets, whatever that means, right? Right? I mean, so she says, as the month stumbles toward its end, so does the illusion of rights in a nation that swore it was free. On July 24th, Trump put a permanent marker to paper and signed an executive order that gave the federal government permission to vanish the people we already try not to see. The people on the sidewalk, the people muttering to themselves in the library bathroom, the ones holding cardboard signs outside of Starbucks, the people that this country failed long before it decided to criminalize their suffering. Like his previous executive orders, this one also came versed to convince you that he's doing this for you. It called the unhoused a threat, not because of what they've done, but because of who they are. People without shelter, people with addictions, people with mental health diagnoses, people who scare the rich just by existing. This isn't about services. It isn't about care. It's about removal. It's about creating a country where people don't have to look at poverty so they can pretend it doesn't exist. And if they do see it, they'll only see it from the outside of a cop car window or a closed psychiatric ward. This is not reform. It's authoritarianism 101. This executive order is a shiny, bureaucratic way of saying, we're about to lock people up en masse under the illusion of help. And what she ends up doing is bringing a historical perspective here. She says, let's talk about what this order really says. They'll tell you it's to help people. But once you read the order, you realize it's not that. It's not that at all. It reads like a plan for care, but acts like a roadmap for disappearance. Behind the promises of treatment and safety, it's a policy built to detain, punish, and erase. Buried in the order, of course, is a term with a long and bitter history, civil commitment. It sounds neutral, almost clinical. But what it really means is that the government can lock someone away in an institution without a crime, without a trial, and without their consent. If a person is homeless, if they have a mental health condition, if someone decides they can't care for themselves, that's all it takes. No jury, no defense, just a signature and a cell. The language used is vague enough to stretch around almost anyone. A risk to themselves or others. We've heard that term used before. Unable to care for themselves. Those phrases have been used before. They've been used to justify locking up dissidents, to disappear people that are inconvenient, and to make the suffering vanish without dealing with what caused it in the first place. Their language is flexible by design, soft enough to sound compassionate, ambiguous enough to be weaponized. And the order doesn't stop there. It doesn't offer housing. It doesn't offer services. What it does offer is more arrests, more crackdowns on loitering, squatting, sitting still for too long in a public place. In the name of safety, it makes existing without money a punishable act. It criminalizes the poor, not the poverty. And while it does all this, it reaches for something even more dangerous. It allows the government access to people's health information. The programs that still offer help will now be expected to collect data. And guess who gets that data? It explicitly names mental health records, addiction histories, medical diagnoses. And once collected, that information can be shared with police, federal agents, prosecutors, whoever needs to file to justify taking someone off the street. But it doesn't stop at a clipboard or a local case file. That data won't just sit in a drawer somewhere. Under previous executive orders this year, agencies were told to share what they gather, not just across departments, but across entire systems. What starts in a HUD program could end up in a federal crime database. What you say to a social worker could quietly travel through the software through software built for war. Because behind the scenes, there's something else at play. Like Reef said, Palantir, the tech company that built Gotham, and Foundries, which are the two operating systems that our intelligence and law enforcement runs on, has spent years designing platforms to link and analyze enormous amounts of information from completely different sources. I mean, we're talking about police records, medical records, surveillance footage, social media posts, case notes, purchase histories, and even travel logs. All of it mapped and stitched together by machine learning. It was built for battlefield intelligence.
You remember the thing in what's the Batman movie where like Morgan Freeman, he makes Morgan Freeman look at all the
the Dark Knight. No, it's even more than that. It's
Right.
even more than that, because you might be able to see that there's a figure in there, but you don't know who it is and their medical history and access to everything about them. You just know that there's 4 figures in the building. This is even more depth because it would literally be able to use cameras in the room to be able to tell you who's in there, their heat signature, their heart rhythm, to literally identify every single person on Earth and be able to target them, because everybody has flaws and everybody has things that they would be embarrassed by and could be used against them. To continue, with Trump's directive to unify and share data between agencies, that's what's being created. What's being created is a nationwide nervous system, a real-time feed of the country's most vulnerable people, constantly updated and monitored. Not just a database, a weaponized brain. Imagine if the Soviet Union had a supercomputer that could flag you for being mentally ill, or for being unhoused, for visiting the wrong clinic too many times. I think they actually dealt with their homelessness problem a lot better than we did. And a lot of that, but I could be wrong. Imagine if it could suggest that you be committed or detained or quietly removed. Imagine if Orwell's telescreens didn't just watch you, but predicted what you'd do next. And that's what Palantir is doing. That's not science fiction anymore. It's public policy in America 2025. It's pre-crime, predictive programming, and predictive crime. Who would run these facilities? Let's guess.
Talked a bunch about that too.
She sure has. All right. And check that out at unlimitedhangout.com. But as Dissent in Bloom asks, who would run these facilities? Well, the executive order is written as intentionally ambiguous regarding how these facilities would operate. It lists that these detainees would be sent to appropriate facilities and gives examples such as treatment centers and housing and support networks, without distinctly specifying the who, what, when, or where. And that's not on accident. It does, however, specify that these individuals would be sent to private housing and support networks. Private. Contractors. Not government employees. Not subject to public information laws. Not subject to FOIA requests. This leaves these facilities able to operate in the shadows, all while running off with your tax dollars. Could it possibly be Geo Group and CoreCivic? The same beast behind 99% of the immigration processing centers in the U.S.? This is their domain. See, not only do these companies make money from private prisons and immigration processing centers, they also own and operate places that fit into this executive order just a little too perfectly. And they've been expanding their private detention network over the last several months. In 2025, they brought in some of their largest federal contracts to date under the Trump administration. Geo Group owns residential reentry centers and mental health treatment centers under the Buy Incorporated subsidiary. CoreCivic already owns and operates reentry programs and secure psychiatry units, right? And openly advertises its ability to partner with governments for rehabilitation and behavioral health management. Now, I'd like to remind you that this very same Trump administration, Geo Group, and CoreCivic are actively being lobbied for and funded in 2024, okay? They spent a ton of money. Geo Group alone spent between $2 and $3 million supporting Trump and Republicans. So, who could have guessed that private prisons would benefit the most from an authoritarian government? Who could have possibly seen this coming? Tongue firmly planted in cheek. Just remember that this isn't about compassion. It's about making cities safer. It's about control. It's about cleaning up the sidewalks without ever looking anyone in the eye. It's about making the margins disappear so the rest of the country doesn't have to feel uncomfortable. This isn't policy. It's a quiet purge, a legal blueprint to turn human suffering into a public nuisance and sweep it away. Now, she also brings a story from the Soviet Union, which I'm going to skip through because she also talks about Nazi Germany. And not only did she do a piece on this, but she also did a TikTok. And I thought I had the TikTok here, and now I lost it. So let me see if I can't find it real quick. Damn it. I'm sorry, everyone. We'll do it live, right? Thank you for the do it live thing.
Speakers. Tic-tac-toe.
Oh, winner. There we go. I was waiting for that. Where is it? Acteon. She sent me something about that yesterday. Where is it? We're getting close, folks. I'm just scrolling. Scrolling.
Do it live. I'll write it and we'll do it live.
A lot of conversation, folks. Sorry.
We'll do it live. Fuck it.
That's right. All right.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
I'm not seeing it. Damn it. Oh, sorry. All right. Nope. So let's just go back and read it. Real quick. Nazi Germany did this before with a program called Action T4. Acteon. Long before the world understood the full scale of Nazi brutality, the regime tested its power on those least able to resist, not in the camps, not with soldiers, but quietly through hospitals and clinics. It started with a program called Action T4. In 1939, the Nazi government announced that it would begin transferring people with severe disabilities to receive what they called specialized medical care. Does this sound familiar? The public was told this was about mercy. They said the nation could no longer afford to care for people with incurable illnesses. The language was clean, technical, and reassuring. But what it masked was a systematic program to murder tens of thousands of people deemed unworthy of life. The first to die were children with developmental delays. Then came adults with schizophrenia, epilepsy, or physical impairments. Elderly people with dementia. Patients with mental illness. Anyone who couldn't work was seen as a burden on the state. The government labeled them useless eaters and sent them to die in gas chambers disguised as showers or through forced starvation, overdoses, and neglect. There's a boys with Down syndrome held near Dachau. Doctors became gatekeepers for the regime. Psychiatrists signed off on extermination orders. Families were often told that their loved ones had died of pneumonia and were mailed urns filled with ashes that likely belonged to someone else entirely. There were no trials or right to defend yourself. There were just quiet disappearances with bureaucratic paperwork and forged death certificates. Action T4 was not a rogue experiment. It was a government program with offices, payrolls, and logistics teams. It involved over 100 institutions across Germany and Austria. It was the first time the Nazis used gas chambers. It was also the test case for public reaction. When the backlash was limited, the regime knew it could go further. After 1941, the program finally ended, officially, but the killing didn't stop. The infrastructure and personnel that made Action T4 possible were later redirected to the extermination camps. The logic that justified those early murders, those that some lives were too costly, too damaged, too inconvenient, would go on to shape the Holocaust itself. Okay? She says, today when governments talk about shifting people with mental illness or addiction into institutions for their own good, we have to ask what that really means. When vague standards like a danger to themselves or others become the threshold for detention, we need to understand where that path can lead. And when treatment becomes compulsory and privacy becomes optional, we're not building systems of care, we're building systems of control. The digital control grid, as Catherine Austin Fitts very famously refers to it as. And in a country already building camps like Alligator Auschwitz, it isn't a red flag, it's a 3-alarm fucking fire. So I'm going to duplicate this tab and then I'm going to go to this video because I just got the link for it so we can watch the TikTok. Let's unmute.
Disability. And as a result, his parents sent a letter to the government asking for relief. And this made its way all the way to the head of the government at the time, whose name I cannot say. Now, what did he do? He sent his personal physician to go and examine this baby, who actually gave it a lethal injection of medication, causing it to unfortunately pass away. And the parents were told it was, quote unquote, for the best. And from there, that set a precedent. That's what started Action 4. It wasn't long after that the hospitals were mandated to report children with physical and mental disabilities to the government at birth, and these children were taken from their families and sent to specialized institutions where they would be provided with better care. They didn't really have a say in the matter. Now, these children were killed in mass in gas chambers, and this actually preluded the camps. And then the following year, this expanded to adults, and this didn't just include physical and mental disabilities, this included mental health issues as well. So people in asylums, people with schizophrenia, epilepsy, with any kind of mental health issues would be loaded up onto these gray buses where they would be taken from these asylums to these killing centers. There were 6 mandated killing centers. They looked like hospitals, but then they would take them into showers where they would be killed. It took about 20 minutes at a time, and then they would be burned on site in on-site ovens. While they were actively burning, these staff members would laugh and joke and play accordion and party and have fun, like it was just another Tuesday. Now, of course, after a while, families were like, hey, what the hell? Why are all of these people, all of our families dying from the exact same thing, like pneumonia in July? Like, this isn't adding up. So after a while, because they were in war and they didn't want inner turmoil, they stopped. But really, they just found other ways to continue the killing until after the war.
Jesus. Okay. So there's that.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And so to continue, her final thoughts said that Action T4 did not begin with mass murder. It began with paperwork, vague diagnoses, and public indifference. What many forget is that the Nazis modeled much of their ideology on American eugenics policy, borrowing language and laws from U.S. sterilization programs that targeted the poor, disabled, and mentally ill. The Supreme Court once called these sterilizations constitutional, declaring that 3 generations of imbeciles are enough. Oh my God. That same cold logic survives today in the architecture of our immigration system, where migrants are detained without charges, where ICE raids tear families apart, and where asylum seekers are sent to prisons for daring to flee violence. The same immigration system that forcibly sterilized immigrants during Trump's first administration. It lives in Trump's latest executive order, okay, which allows people to be institutionalized without trial, criminalizes poverty, and turns health records into tools of surveillance. This is not some new idea. It's an old and familiar playbook, dressed in modern language and powered by modern technology. If the Nazis had Palantir, they would have used it. If the Soviets had predictive algorithms, they would have fed them dissenters, probably. I mean, most authoritarian governments do. What we're building now is a system that doesn't need to ask why someone is poor or sick. It only needs to decide that they should not be seen. And once that decision is made, there are no limits to what the state can justify. That's fucking frightening. All right. And support independent media, support our friend Dissent in Bloom. She supports INN. Here you go. One of the first things Hitler did was make unemployment illegal. Everything going on in the U.S. smells like the fetid, inhuman stench of fascism. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Sure. And along that line, I brought from Jen Budd, who again is a whistleblower from Customs and Border Patrol. She says, look for private prison corps, Geo Group, and others to get in the game of housing the homeless and institutionalizing those with mental illness. And I just pointed out that criminalizing homelessness and enslaving them in a prison population seems to be the long-term plan. That's what Keith McHenry of Food Not Bombs has been saying for years. He feeds the homeless. They've been demonized, and more people are being squeezed and priced out of the current system. They're structuring things so that these people will have nowhere to go, and there won't be anywhere to go that they wouldn't be considered a criminal. From sleeping in their cars to tents in the woods without a permit, or on a sidewalk because they have nowhere else to sleep, or a park bench because they've made that illegal too. Billions are being thrown at a problem that only seems to be getting worse. Okay. Yeah. The economic model of the future relies on making money from holding people in custody. It's not about building anything, creating anything. Bronze Age, Industrial Age, and now human captivity age. So by all means, check out my most recent one-on-one with that author, Dissent in Bloom. I think we're planning on doing a one-on-one, an AMA, where that'll be a live stream Tuesday night, where around starting at 10 Eastern, and everyone here in the audience can ask her questions. That is right now, I believe, in the plans. Hashtag Food Not Bombs. Yeah. Love our friend Keith McHenry. Much love to Keith. So, yeah, that's not great. Hope everybody's got the ability to figure out how to support themselves. I mean, they're coming for anyone that can't. And we may have to get creative and build a safety net in some way, shape, or form to be able to help those who are unable to help themselves. Right? Here, Lone Star Viz over on Rumble. Round up the filthy little peasants. Get them out of sight and out of mind. Yes, that's pretty much exactly what Trump and all these fuckers are saying. Right? After reading, I determined that they should just call this Operation Street Sweeper. Not a bad name. But that's actually too on brand and draconian, because that maybe yeah. And it's just bureaucratic fuckery. Yes, Natalie Williams, thank you. Yeah, love my Monica Perez, but she was giving Trump the benefit of the doubt in terms of being a diddler on Wheezy's show yesterday. There's no doubt. No, gross. We're gonna talk about that. We got some stuff on that. Yep, Vicky talking about Monsanto Bayer. All right, and yeah, I love everyone being here. Good to see everyone over in chat. Before we continue, if you're able to and it means, please support the media you want to see. INN is solely user-funded, and we really rely on tips and monthly subscriptions from people just like you. Everyone who has done that is already up on that board. If you want to join them, really would appreciate if you did. The ways to do that are Cash App, $, Indie News Network, co-fi.com/Indie News Network, We got paypal.me/Indie News Network. We got IndieNewsNow.com, and we're live over at IndieNewsNow.com/live. That's where we host a live stream so that in case we get thrown off all these platforms, you can still see us there. And then we've got the Substacks at INNnewsletter.com, where Shirley Cooper became a member this week. And at Indie Media.
A Substack newsletter near you.
Holy crap, yeah, we're going to talk about that in a second. I can wax on Rachel and Stephen Shitlib Colbert. Indie Media Today, by the way. We're live at Indie Media Today. Hello to everybody at Indie Media Today. Sorry I have not been checking on the chat over there for the 18 people who've checked in. Raymond Kahlberg, thank you. Good to see you. You've been hanging out every week. Lisa Tyree, hi. Hobbs, my cunt brother who's everywhere. Good to see you. Michael Ginsberg out down under. Harps and Ginsberg, you guys should get together and have a Foster's. I know nobody in Australia drinks Foster's. Just making a joke there. But yeah, this is we've got now it's time for Raging About Israel. Everybody ready? Everybody ready? Because there's a lot to say fuck Israel about this week. Oh boy. Okay. What happened over here? Hey, you're not supposed to see that.
I don't know.
Whoa. Okay.
You broke it.
I sure did. Anti-war news. Dave DeCamp, Indie Media Award honoree, inaugural class, publishes the other day, Israeli Knesset passes non-binding resolution calling for the annexation of the West Bank. This was the big game. This was why they backed Trump specifically, was that he basically said that he would allow them without pushback to annex the West Bank. And now it's happening. The motion passed in a vote of 71-13.
There's no Hamas in the West Bank, so how? But what about the hostage?
Yeah. The Israeli Knesset on Wednesday passed a non-binding resolution that calls for the annexation of the occupied West Bank, a symbolic show of support for the total takeover of the Palestinian territory. The motion passed 71-13, with two opposition parties in the 120-seat Knesset boycotting the vote. The resolution received the support of all 60 lawmakers who are part of the current government, what a surprise, as well as members of the United Torah Judaism, Noam, and Yisrael Beitenu parties. I don't even know who these parties are. The resolution states that the declaration would make it clear to the world that Israel will not accept solutions that involve dangerous territorial concessions, and that it is committed to its future as a secure Nazi Jewish state. You mean, yeah, that's not cool.
State, yeah.
You know, a religious dictatorship where they have supremacy over everybody else. Yeah, no. It says that Judea and Samaria, fuck you for even using the biblical terms. The biblical name for the West Bank, fuck you in your Bible, is an inseparable part of the historical homeland of the Jewish people. So then why the fuck have you continued to give it up all these years and allow people, again, that's where you've been squeezing people. So now the last vestiges of where you've allowed them to survive and exist, now you're mad that they live there too. Fuck off. Following the vote, Knesset Speaker Amir Ohana, a member of Prime Minister Benjamin Fuck Off Netanyahu's Likud war criminal party,
Ohana,
means family. Claim that Jews cannot be considered occupiers of the Palestinian territory. Jews are everywhere, asshole. The European settlers that live there are certainly occupiers of the Palestinian territory, you fucking lying douchebag. This is our land. This is our land. This is our home. Prove it, fucko. The land of Israel belongs to the people of Israel, of which you are not one because you are a Khazarian European. In 1967, the occupation did not begin.
Do we see DNA evidence? Show me DNA evidence.
Dude, I mean, it's beyond infuriating. In In 1967, the occupation didn't begin, they're saying. It ended and our homeland was returned to its rightful owners. How about no? We are the original first natives of this piece of land. Jews cannot be the occupier of a land that for 3,000 years has been called Judea, except it wasn't. It was called fucking Palestine. It was called Palestine. Look at fucking Raiders of the Lost Ark. Look at every map and encyclopedia for 100 fucking years before World War II, asshole. It wasn't called Judea. While the resolution is symbolic, it comes as the Israeli government has been working to advance settlements in the West Bank and as Jewish settlers have been increasing violent attacks against Palestinians with the goal of driving them from their land. The current Israeli government has prioritized the expansion of settlements since it came into power at the end of December 2022. Right about the time that it started ramping up killings of Palestinians and then looked the other way on October 7th as the most watched wall in the history of watched walls, just somehow ended up not watched at all. Amazing how that just happened, right? Wouldn't have been a Hannibal directive or anything afterwards. Okay. Earlier this month, all the Likud ministers in the government urged the war criminal Netanyahu to annex the territory, citing support from the Trump administration. Like we said, it was Miriam Adelson that bought off the Trump administration and the Trump campaign for the right to be able to do this. Quote, the strategic partnership backing and support of the U.S. President Donald Trump have made it a propitious time to move forward with it now. Propitious, yeah. And ensure that Israel's security for generations. I don't think so. You take that and every other Arab nation starts attacking. Or so we expect. So far, it has not happened. And going after Syria was a good part of that. Right now, there would only basically be a response from Iran. Because there's no more Iraq left. There's no more Syria left. There's a Saudi Arabia that's heavily U.S. aligned. There's a UAE that's heavily U.S. aligned. There's a Qatar that's heavily U.S. aligned. Right? You think about the region. There's Turkey that's heavily NATO aligned. And all of a sudden, it's like Russia isn't going to do it either, especially on behalf of an Arab nation.
No. China's not there either.
Like, they've already signed a thing that stated that even if Iran gets attacked, that they're not necessarily required to step in and defend Iran like an Article 5 NATO treaty is. Correct. Like, that was 2 months ago they signed that. But we got a long way to go.
Yep.
Shout out to 2024 Indie Media Honoree Decentered News, one of the best outlets out there. Go follow them over on Twitter, over on Substack, over on decentered.news also. As they continue to starve and exterminate the Palestinians in Gaza, Israel is concentrating the remaining population into even smaller camps. Concentrating into camps. I think I heard that somewhere before.
Yeah, where have we heard that before?
More than 86% of Gaza is under displacement orders and militarized zones, says the International Organization for Migration. That's a division of the UN. No place is safe, they write. This is their animation. Watch this shit. Watch this shit right here. This is just from March 18th.
Displacement orders in Gaza.
This is from March 18th through July 16th. And look at the numbers of displaced people go up. It's already over 6 figures. This is by the end of March. All these red zones are cleansed ethnically. Oh, here we go. This is just the beginning. It's going to get, that was the big one when they moved the line in.
That was the big one.
Now you got 725,000 displaced on July 16th. That's where the line was at the end. Right there. Okay? Everyone that was in that big area now just can live in these gray areas. Maybe. and then they're shot at when they're walking
Which
for
this
food and water.
I mean, this feels like old info too, because there's now like that line's gotten even smaller recently.
Well, that was 11 days ago. Yes, they continue to concentrate it.
Right. I mean, and you're also talking about like where can you grow food here?
Nowhere.
Right? And it's like not in those gray areas, like, you know. So, and they barely could grow food already in the areas they were at. So, you know, this is what a genocide looks like: starvation and siege warfare.
And they're not
on an entire population.
And of course, they're not allowed to fish, right? There was an order put that they're not allowed to fish. Thank you, Seven Sign Soul over on Substack for mentioning that. Where is Dan Cohen on Capture News? Dan Cohen is an Indie Media Award honoree for sure. Same shit they did in Haiti. I sort of. Yeah, there's plenty of Dan's. Dan's been covering this too. But I got a bunch of other stuff tonight. Mondo Weiss and other Indie Media Award honorees as well. Dan's on the list. He's up there. So this is where they've literally allowed all the people that are left to live, and then they're going to clear them out of there too. And then basically the whole thing will end up red. And that's when they bring the fences in and they hide this area from everybody. And that's when they bring in all the construction trucks and they start rebuilding on top of the bones. And that's when the Gaza reconstruction plan goes. Yes, they had food before these fuckers came. They had olive groves, which were burned to the ground by Israel. You're absolutely right, Vicky. They ain't getting water or unbombed land to farm. Absolutely right, Fred.
And keep in mind how much land before October 7th has been fucking taken. Like, you know, since the Nakba.
Most of it. Right. Descent in Bloom, quote, the aid sites are all areas they've been told to go, then they shoot at them when they go. And I think we've covered that a couple times already on the show. All right.
Yep.
Mondo Weiss. So this is another one. I wanted to talk about the New York Times, and we hate the New York Times here, obviously, but I don't think that people quite realize just the level of Zionist trash that the New York Times is. And the reason why they are so biased. Mondo Weiss did an incredible deep dive recently into the leadership of the New York Times. Pointing out...
New York Times? Oh, sorry.
Well, that's what Christina P. used to call them a long time ago, by the way. The New York Times has helped to enable and sustain Israel's ongoing genocide, or at least whitewash it in the public press. A new dossier reveals the close ties of 20 top editors, executives, and journalists at the Times who've covered Gaza and their connection to Israel and Zionism, and whitewashed it the entire time. All right? Sons serving in the IOF, ties to Zionist lobbying groups or think tanks, living in a stolen house or has lived in a stolen house in Israel themselves, or 3 of them who actually served in the IOF themselves. We are putting the New York Times on notice. Since the Zionist genocide in Gaza began over 20 months ago, the paper of record has run cover for Israel's war crimes. We've witnessed the Zionist entity drop 2,000-pound bombs on displaced Palestinians forced to survive in tents, massacre starving Palestinians at aid sites, arrest and torture Palestinians accused of fighting back or administering care, destroy Gaza's entire healthcare system, obliterate almost every one of its schools and universities, damage over 90% of its residential buildings, and block food and supplies from entering the besieged strip, despite what the fuck they decide to claim on wherever yesterday. But the New York Times journalists have chosen to ignore, whitewash, distort, or justify each one of these crimes, which we've brought a lot of here. As much as any weapons manufacturer, the New York Times is a part of the machinery of war, producing, in the realm of public opinion, the impunity that enables and sustains Israel's ongoing genocide. When we first occupied the lobby of the New York Times in November of 2023, we called out the Times' refusal to historicize the Al-Aqsa flood within the context of Israel's over 7-decade-long occupation of Palestine and its choice to frame the Israeli military's bombardment of Gaza as a targeted war against Hamas. We demanded that the Times tell the truth. We printed our own paper, The New York War Crimes, which contained the names of Palestinian martyrs recorded at the time. It took us over an hour just to read the names of martyrs under the age of 1. We called on our audiences to boycott the Times, to divest their time, trust, and attention from the paper, and to unsubscribe from its quote-unquote news, games, and recipes. That includes Wordle. Fuck Wordle.
Mm-hmm.
We are not the
and
first.
The wire cutter.
Yep. We are not the first to point out the New York Times' commitment to Zionism. The dossier we released this month was built on the investigative work of outlets and organizations including the Electronic Intifada, Mondoweiss, The Intercept, Fairness and Accuracy in Reporting, and Palestinian writers who've exposed this fraudulence of the paper of record for decades. Since October 7th, 2023, such critiques have accrued both new audiences and new urgency. Data tracking word choices across the newsroom, as well as leaks of the Times' editorial directives, evince anti-Palestinian bias. Times headline corrections have been a favorite discursive tool of the Palestine Solidarity movement. Alan McLeod and Asal Rod fixed headlines almost daily to reveal the revisionism, to set the record straight, to tell the truth. Our dossier adds to this body of knowledge. It exposes 20 high-ranking editors, executives, and journalists who cover the war on Gaza and have ties to the Zionist state, further undermining the Times' unearned prestige. Natan Odenheimer served in the Maglan Special Forces Commando Unit of the Israeli occupation forces. Now that he's a Jerusalem correspondent for the Times, he writes about and embeds with his former brothers in arms. I mean, murderers in arms. How can we ever expect someone to report on the occupation correctly when he wore the occupier's uniform for 4 years? Isabel Kirshner is the mother of 2 former IOF soldiers and the wife of another. After his tour, Kirshner's husband went on to direct an Israeli think tank's program on information strategy, a department tasked with shaping a positive image of Israel in the media. You mean brainwashing and propaganda. We don't have to ask how this...
Daniela Weiss would want him to do.
We don't ask how this relationship...
You have to brainwash people.
Yes, she belongs in prison.
Fucking worse than that.
All right. We don't have to ask how this relationship shapes her coverage. Kirshner has cited her husband's think tank over 100 times since she started writing for the Times in 2007. Our dossier, which lays bare the material connections and historical allegiances of editors, executives, and influential writers to Zionism, clearly demonstrates that the Times is compromised. The entire institution is systematically organized to protect Israel from international accountability. It's interesting that Barry Weiss left there because it seems tailor-made for her now. So maybe she left because she accomplished...
That's the Assad toady, right?
Right. Maybe she left because she accomplished her goal of leaving it for that level of Zionism and starting her own independent, quote-unquote, Zionist-funded outlet that's VC-funded and housed on Substack called the Free Press, which is fucking hilarious and the biggest troll ever. While they lie about beheaded babies and rapes on October 7th. Still, the Times support...
Free Palestine.
You better. The Times support of Zionism and the settler state's colonial mission across the region is deeply embedded in the paper's history. A.M. Rosenthal, head of the Times newsroom for nearly 2 decades, was praised at his funeral for showing that it was possible to love Israel every bit as much as to love our own country. You mean to be a traitor to your own country? Max Frankel, executive editor of the Times for over 10 years, admitted that he wrote from a pro-Israel perspective and said he was expected to stand up for Israel, whether they're right or wrong. Fuck Israel.
So how is that? Okay.
That's cheerleading. That's not journalism.
What?
The Times has condemned our research as a vile campaign in the press, but refuses to accept that Israel's killing of over 200 Palestinian journalists has been targeted. We regret ever calling the martyr Hossam Shabbat the colleague of elite journalists who write their propaganda from stolen homes in occupied Jerusalem.
Jesus Christ.
Those who serve in the IOF, who get paid by the Israel lobby to spew Hasbara, are not the colleagues of Palestine's bravest. They are their enemies. The paper's response to our dossier deploys the same tortured logic present in its coverage. How can our research be both public knowledge and inaccurate? We know why the Times has been silent on the killing of media workers. Palestinian journalists expose the same truth the paper seeks to obscure. They're constantly charged with being biased and unable to report objectively because they're Palestinian. Their identity is the ultimate accusation. But in the Times, fairness evades the Palestinians, and their struggle to live free is unrighteous, unjust, and worthy of condemnation, while Israel can do whatever they want to do to stop them from that struggle.
They're freedom fighters,
the New York Times doesn't recognize Palestine. An editor of the Times once told the Palestinian intellectual Ibrahim Abu Lughod. Abu Lughod responded, well, Palestine doesn't recognize the New York Times either. His refusal to acknowledge the Times 37 years ago is an invitation to undercut its prestige. Everyone should heed his call and boycott, divest, and unsubscribe from the paper of record. And I don't know too many people here who do. But if you do, cancel that shit. To imagine a free Palestine within our lifetimes, it helps to imagine a world without the New York fucking Times. Fuck the New York Times. And fuck Israel. So, here's more proof that what's been happening has been happening. Gaza Humanitarian Foundation whistleblower exposes aid massacres, and this was out of The Dissident. Okay? The Dissident is an INN co-founder, actually. He pulled this out of a couple places like Middle East Eye. Israel's GHF, okay, which had set up 4 fake aid distribution sites in Gaza, guarded by U.S. mercenary security firms Safe Reach Solutions and UG Solutions, has been used as a quote-unquote death trap for Palestinians starved by the Israeli blockade. We've talked about this before. Okay, more than 1,000 Palestinians killed by Israeli forces while trying to access food and water. Now, an American military contractor who is guarding an aid site has come forward to Israel's Channel 12 and blown the whistle on Israel's use of the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation for massacres. I thought they were denying that. And that was on Israel TV. He stated in the interview, quote, I'm a career veteran in the United States Army who's been deployed to combat 12 times in 4 different wars. I have never in my entire military career been a part of, allowed, or bystander to the use of force against unarmed innocent civilians, and I'm not going to do it now. Too late. Referring to the GHF, he said, there's no fixing this. This needs to be there needs to be an end to it. There needs to be an end put to it. The UN was already distributing food beforehand, easily and well. And Israel stopped that because they were distributing food easily and well. They wanted to starve the Palestinian people, and that's what's happening. So this whistleblower recounted a story of a GHF guard spraying an entire bottle of pepper spray into an unarmed Palestinian civilian's face. when he was desperately picking up food, saying there was a man who was on the ground. He was on his hands and knees, and he was picking up noodles. The UG security personnel wanted to get the Palestinians off the site. So they started yelling, "Hey, let's go, let's leave." The guy wasn't armed. He wasn't a threat. So this UG contractor sprayed an entire can of pepper spray into the guy's face. That's lethal. He also recounted a UG contractor killing a Palestinian woman with a stun grenade, saying, "I was standing next to these two women, and this contractor threw this stun grenade, and it landed between me and them. This thing hit us, and she just dropped, just lifeless, collapsed to the ground, and it looked like she'd been killed." He also told the outlet that the sites were deliberately set up in areas that forced Palestinians into dangerous areas of Gaza in order to reach them. Why would they do that? He said, quote, "The IDF engineers built the sites and decided where they would be. In reality, the sites put the population at great disadvantage and in great danger. The sites were not set up in locations, nor were they set up in a way that was conducive to delivering and distributing humanitarian aid to a needy population." That, to me, is the biggest indictment of all. Like, that's what they were supposed to be doing there. The Palestinians couldn't have vehicles. They couldn't have cars. They were on foot. Most of them don't even have fucking shoes. There's no water going through active war zone areas because they wanted them to be killed. He also said that U.S. mercenaries have been shooting at Palestinians once they reach the aid sites, which we've also been reporting on, claiming, and he said here, quote, "As the Palestinians were finishing getting the aid that was on the site, the UG Solutions personnel began shooting in their direction, shooting at them, shooting at their feet, trying to get them to leave. Like you see in the movies, like in the old Wild West. Ha, get out of here. Pew, pew, pew. Like it's a big fucking game. They're having a good old time." He finished the interview saying, quote, "If the UN method had the amount of support and security and coordination that GHF is getting, then the UN process would be very successful." And he links to the video here. Really important that this is documented, and documented on Israeli fucking TV. I'm not playing because I don't want to get taken down from the copyright. But we've got more.
Yeah.
Now, a lot of people like to bring Carrie
But
Wedler.
wait, there's more.
But wait, there's more fuckery. Carrie Wedler, Pleasure to Burn. I love her stuff. And people like her videos. She's clever and she's hilarious. But she also writes really good stuff. And a lot of people wouldn't bring this one, but I wanted to specifically because I knew a lot of people wouldn't. But it's really good. She says this is that Palantir-linked executives are helping to launch a new propaganda film venture, framing it as an all-American counter to Hollywood, but so far it's nothing more than imperial agitprop. And it's also laundering genocide in Gaza. You know, Hollywood has had quite a bit of pushback, but now she's reporting on this, and this was the other day on the 24th on Thursday. Palantir-linked tech executives are reportedly helping raise funds for a film production company that intends to make pro-U.S. government movies. According to a new article from Semaphore this week, Founders Films, and remember who owns the Founders Fund? A guy named Pete, a Dallas-based production company, is entering the culture war to fight for American nationalism and exceptionalism. The new company is backed by founding Palantir Chief Technology Officer Shyam Sankar, who recently joined the Army as a lieutenant colonel with several other big tech executives. This new Detachment 201 was reportedly
crazy.
Bonkers. Was reportedly Sankar's idea. So now
insane.
The tech bros got lieutenant colonel fucking commissions.
They just gave him some stripes, dude. Here you go. Here's your stripes.
Other backers.
What a fucking shit show we're in.
Other backers include a former head of business development for Palantir, Ryan Podolsky, an investor, Christian Garrett. Garrett's firm is invested in government contractor companies like SpaceX, Palantir, and Anduril. Anduril is currently working on AI drone warfare for the military, and was just granted an effective monopoly via the big, beautiful bill on supplying the autonomous surveillance towers to U.S. Customs and Border Protection. That's not good. These three men are reportedly raising money for the new film endeavor. For context, Palantir, again, is a politically entrenched software, AI, and data analysis corporation that was partially funded early on by In-Q-Tel, which is the CIA's investment wing. They were implicated in Snowden's 2013 releases and have contracts with numerous U.S. government agencies, including the Pentagon, CDC, ICE, and the IRS by way of the Department of Government Efficiency. How convenient. They recently came under extensive scrutiny from the fuck you New York Times, okay? And they reported that they were helping Trump compile a centralized database on Americans, which the company vehemently denied as they were doing it. Palantir co-founder Peter Thiel and his associates have extensive ties to the current administration. However, they also have ties to the CIA and In-Q-Tel. However, as with many nefarious political arrangements, Palantir's government profiteering is not limited to Republican administrations. Further, Palantir provides services to governments outside the U.S., remember, and recently brought the AI-driven Project Maven, which it built for the Pentagon, to NATO. So they're expanding their footprint.
Yeah. And I'm pretty sure also directly involved with, like, Where's Daddy and Lavender
AI,
over there in Israel. So
a guerrilla war against the status quo, right? According to an in-depth article, Sankar posted on his Substack late last year, that the Palantir CTO believes there must be a heroic challenge to the status quo that dominates Hollywood films. Why? This aligns with the recent Founders Films pitch deck obtained by Semaphore. In it, the new company decries the current state of affairs. Quote, "The American brand is broken. Hollywood is AWOL. Movies have become more ideological, more cautious, and less entertaining. Large segments of American and international viewers are underserved. Production costs have soared and sales are flagging." This just screams to me. This is like, the liberals have taken over Hollywood. So we're going to make our own conservative, pro-American version, right?
We're going to make Hollywood great again.
But you can be sure that they're also going to try to make Israel great again. Further in his 2024 article, Sankar accurately points out that films are a form of soft power, highlighting that governments have an interest in exporting their cultures to craft a positive image around the world. Yes, they also do predictive programming, and they embed with the military and intelligence. And they bleed out stories in advance to, again, predict, to let people kind of understand of what's about to happen and go, hey, I saw a movie about this. And that way they're much more willing to accept it when it does happen. He frames the communist Chinese regime as an arch nemesis of the United States, opining that America is in the middle of Cold War II against a communist enemy with more people, more money, and more military might than the Soviets ever had. Well, that's correct, but nothing else in that statement is. He predictably treats this...
I only liked Hollywood when it made movies like Sound of the South. That's what I bring back my movies. I guarantee you that's what we're... Like, what wasn't the other... Was it Goebbels or whatever that was like, we got to do Nazi videos, Nazi movies?
Goebbels was the...
Right, did a whole thing on that. Which one was that?
I think that was Goebbels.
Yeah.
Of course, in his version of reality,
something like that. America
is the good guy standing against oppressors and evildoers who seek to subjugate the world. This is Rich coming from the CTO of a company. Yeah, but this is literally coming from the CTO of a company helping multiple government agencies surveil the public more efficiently. On one hand, Sankar correctly identifies governments' efforts to exert soft power to influence the world in their favor. The Chinese government does exert immense influence over Hollywood studios, whose leaders are willing to bend the knee to the Chinese government in exchange for access to Chinese audiences. The NBA did the same thing, by the way. However, the Palantir CTO's apparent answer to this, Founders Films, embodies pervasive and outdated ideologies and ways of thinking. He espouses a false dichotomy that paints the U.S. as the world's moral authority. Accordingly, Founders Films wants to make films that promote American exceptionalism. Good luck. You mean American lies? In reality, the Chinese government is undeniably, the Chinese government is undeniably oppressive and corrupt, but the U.S. government is not its freedom-loving counterpart. Rather than seeking to produce thought-provoking films that explore true freedom and sincere skepticism of government and authority, Founders Films appears on track to produce traditional right-wing flavored pro-government propaganda. According to Semaphore, the production slate includes films about the 9/11 terror attacks. I hope it blames Israel, but it won't.
Terror.
Okay. The Trump administration's 2020 assassination of Iranian General Qasem Soleimani. As a good thing?
Soleimani, oh God.
The botched U.S. withdrawal from Afghanistan under Joe Biden. Democrats can't do anything right. You mean under the timetable that Trump had set arbitrarily?
Yeah.
The Chinese spy operation.
Weather Balloon, the movie.
Right. Seeking to upend America's position as the dominant global power. Bro, this is comical.
Fucking awful.
And then whitewashing and bragging about the recent U.S.-Israeli airstrikes that claimed to take out the Iranian regime's nuclear program, but didn't, of course.
Starring Jerry Seinfeld in his new role.
To complete the pro-government propaganda, the studio also plans to make a new version of Atlas Shrugged. Of course they're going to repackage Ayn Rand.
Of course. We got to fucking Ayn Rand it up. We got to.
This choice rounds out the current right-wing narrative, the age-old elevation of American exceptionalism, militarism, and government authority under the cover of libertarian, anti-government, anti-authoritarian values. In reality, military industrialism and empire are anything but libertarian. So she says,
one of these fucking days, libertarians will figure it the fuck out too. But till then,
ignorance is strength. Well, now we're getting into INCSOC language. Okay. The new venture's focus on American militarism and exceptionalism perfectly highlights the false dichotomy Thankar paints as Cold War II. As evil, quote unquote, as the Chinese regime may be, and I disagree with Carrie on how evil they are, the U.S. military is no stranger to abuses and atrocities. For one, American militarism and exceptionalism have led to decades of wars that are often based on lies. As Julian Assange famously said, these wars have contributed to a massive national debt on the backs of regular Americans, not to mention the immense toll on soldiers fighting these endless wars, not to mention the opportunity cost of things we could have been doing with that money and time instead. Nobody ever talks about what's been sacrificed that way. The advances in technology that weren't for military gain. More explicitly, U.S. troops and those who command them have committed grave inhumanities. A sampling of morally egregious acts includes the My Lai massacre in Vietnam, torture in Afghanistan, ongoing airstrikes that have killed countless civilians, Obama's drone program, the use of depleted uranium, and turning a blind eye to child sex abuse in Afghanistan and everywhere else for that matter. It appears
still irradiated, by the way.
It appears the success of the new film company rests on the mental gymnastics Orwell once described. The nationalist not only does not disapprove of atrocities committed by his own side, but he has a remarkable capacity for not even hearing about them. Sounds like Israel. Despite Thankar's stated desire to challenge the status quo, his vision, and that of Founders Films are aligned with the establishment. Indeed, Sankar refers to Top Gun as an American ideal film. You mean the gay anthem? Oh my God.
Oh my God.
As it happens,
God.
Top Gun is one of countless movies directly influenced by the U.S. government. The Pentagon enjoyed say over the film's script. The Pentagon enjoyed say over the film's script in exchange for consulting and providing equipment to make the movie more realistic. The 2022 sequel.
Pentagon.
Yeah, those guys.
Pentagon.
Almost certainly had the same military influence, the sequel. Okay. The original 1986 film also reflects the power of cinema in shaping people's opinions and perceptions. It provided a small but significant boost to naval recruitments. And I know people that definitely joined the military because of Top Gun. Right? So she says the longstanding relationship between Hollywood and the U.S. government, which encompasses not just the Pentagon, but agencies like CIA and the FBI, has produced inarguably pro-government films. All of them are pro-government. They're not allowed to be... Look at Transformers. Jesus Christ. The film products of this relationship...
All of them. What do you mean? Everything that uses any military fucking equipment ever is fucking propaganda shit. So... Which the other half of Hollywood is just propaganda. So, you know, one of the two.
Yeah, pretty much. The film products of this relationship reinforce the same image of the American government that the Palantir Link production company seeks to boost. Unsurprisingly, right-wing culture warriors rarely decry this flavor of Hollywood propaganda. It's unclear whether Founders Films will seek a similar relationship with government agencies, but it wouldn't be surprising. Actually, it would be the most obvious thing that I can imagine. All right. And of course, outcomes are greater than intentions. Far from being a true challenge to oppressive ideological influence, Founders Films is on track to reinforce the same pro-government narratives, culture wars, false left-right dichotomy, and polarization that have long plagued media, politics, and society at large. While Sankar may be correct that Hollywood has rolled over for the communist Chinese regime and that the film industry needs fresh content because they do keep recycling sequels and prequels and offshoot stories and
it's just fucking capitalism.
Right. Regurgitating
it's
establishment
always that ruins things.
Regurgitating establishment propaganda tropes from decades past is hardly an effective solution. Perhaps the Palantir executive-backed film company is knowingly perpetuating harmful, subservient ideologies as an intentional push to subjugate people's minds. Maybe. Or perhaps the new project is merely a reflection of their own sincere, albeit propagandized beliefs. It may be a bit of both. It's not. Either way, their true intentions matter less than the end result, conditioning people to revere their jingoistic overlords as liberators and encourage affection and reverence for good authoritarians. Again, Carrie, I disagree with you on the Chinese communist stuff and how they're evil and authoritarian and they're the big bad guy that we have to worry about in the future. They're already the world dominant global power, and they're going to be for the rest of our lives. Like it, don't give a fuck. They don't give a fuck. There are too many of them that we can't stop them. Now, one other thing I wanted to mention, another Indie Media Award honoree, Andy Worthington, mentioned something last night, and I'm not 100% sure what's happened today with it, but there was talk of the resumption of aid deliveries in Gaza after 146 days of no trucks getting through, despite what Israel claims. He said it appears that the outrage caused by the horrific images of deliberately starved children in Gaza, and all you have to do is look all over Twitter or Substack to see pictures of emaciated children and adults, like literally skin and bones, looking like Nazi Germany. Those images have finally stirred sufficient international pressure to compel Israel to, at least temporarily, clear its eyes of the red mist that's been in place relentlessly for 22 months almost, and especially since March 1st, when Netanyahu's wretched genocidal regime imposed its latest barbaric siege on all food, water, medicine, and fuel supplies into Gaza. Again, you can lie about that and say that they're not. March 1st was the last time any aid got in. Except for death shrouds. Remember, they allowed 7 trucks full of death shrouds in. I remember you reported on that. On Twitter,
Yeah.
recovering Zionist Shael Ben Ephraim says that, quote, immense international pressure has led Israel to abandon its policy of using GHF death traps, and that, according to reports within Israel, there will be a, quote, humanitarian pause of military operations tomorrow, as well as a, quote, resumption of military escorts to UN and other aid organization convoys, and the, quote, creation of humanitarian corridors. This is all good news if it's actually happening. He says a reliable IDF source told him that, quote, everything we have done in the last few months has failed. The government has finally realized that the pictures broadcast around the world have weakened our hand and strengthened Hamas. Also on Twitter, the Palestinian-American poet Mossab Abu Toha also noted that the promised resumption of aid in Gaza tomorrow, including the, quote, safe movement of UN convoys delivering food and medicine, unquote, and, quote, reconnecting a power line to Gaza desalination plant, boosting daily water output to 20,000 cubic meters, also would be an incredible thing. I want to see it happen. What happened, he asks? Some countries applied pressure on Israel, which means these same countries could stop the genocide. And as Ben Ephraim described it, quote, the attempt to deprive Gazans of food, water, and medical treatment was an intentional policy, and it backfired miserably. And this is one of those UN World Food Program aid trucks that have been denied access for months. And here is one of the tweets. And you can see this was last night when they started moving from Egypt, but I don't know what happened when they got to the Rafah gate. Was there an entire large contingent of Israelis there to block the trucks from going through? I don't know. I saw some stuff about it, but I have not seen the latest about what happened with those trucks. But
I mean, Egyptian military escort, anything?
Well,
no. Okay.
They're not doing that.
I mean, yeah, I get it.
I also, so fuck Israel, man. For all of this.
Yeah.
All right. And so that was our long drawn out fuck Israel segment. Please support the media you want to see. We certainly don't get monetized by YouTube for this. Our channel, INN, is not monetized. My other channel, youtube.com/@indie@INN, is monetized. You could leave a super chat there, but please don't. Do it at one of these other places if you can. Cash App, $ Indie News Network, ko-fi.com/Indie News Network, paypal.me/Indie News Network. IndieNewsNow.com is our website that has a keep the media free section where you can do that. And then at the Substacks at INNnewsletter.com and at IndieMediaToday.com, where we are, again, live right now. Okay, so really quickly, I want to just mention and breeze through the reporter that was arrested. This is a American citizen. Advocates and family are calling for the release of Atlanta journalist detained in retaliation for his ICE coverage. Mario Guevara, arrested on June 14th while covering the protests against Trump, still sitting in prison. Right? Mario Guevara, a native of El Salvador, has lived in the U.S. legally for more than 2 decades, where he became renowned as one of Atlanta's most trusted immigration reporters. Guardian described him, who's an Emmy-winning reporter, as the person that immigrants call when they see an ICE raid going down in their neighborhood. That was until June 14th, when the 47-year-old was snatched up by police while filming an Atlanta area No Kings protest and handed over to ICE. So fuck these bastards. All right. They're trying to get him out. He has since been shuffled between different ICE facilities, an experience he told the Atlanta Journal-Constitution that has left him emotionally destroyed. That's what they want to do. Make it so untenable that they don't want to stay here anymore.
Dude's got a fucking Emmy.
So
and
does
they still
Trump.
don't give a shit.
All
Sure.
right. Guevara's lawyer, Giovanni Diaz, described the stay placed on Guevara's bond by ICE as a surprise to him and the legal team. Though Zamora said he expected that his legal team will ultimately win the appeal, it was a confirmation to us they wanted to treat Mario very differently than other detained individuals. Yes, the punishment is the point. The administration has made it perfectly clear that anyone who's not a legal permanent resident, at least, or a citizen, even if they've been given certain protections and they've been allowed to remain in the U.S. legally, ICE has decided that these people are targets as well. They just say, we don't care. His daughter, my father's a reporter. He chased stories that mattered, stories who told the truth about immigration, about injustice, about people who usually go ignored. He did nothing wrong. He was arrested while wearing a press badge. He wasn't in the way. He wasn't breaking any law. He was doing his job. But we know how Zionists and authoritarians want to treat the press.
Yeah, for sure.
I
Those
also
blue
wanted
vests are a target.
I also wanted to make note, I brought a thing earlier from Jen Budd. She's a whistleblower again from Customs and Border Patrol. She also has been trying to get a book published. And she said it's amazing how much of what I've been writing about for over a decade has been the danger of my former agency, yet I can't get published anywhere. Meanwhile, mainstream news continues to ignore this police state and treat this as a policy issue. The immigration agencies are actually Trump's army. And she was on the inside. She's seen the internal Slack conversations and Telegram chats and Signal chats. She knows the mindset and how they think. And she's screaming that this is not normal. And nobody's listening. So shout out to Jen and free Mario Guevara. That's ridiculous. But what else is new? Fuck the Trump administration and fuck ICE. Please support the media you want to see. Again, Cash App, $, Indie News Network, ko-fi.com/Indie News Network, paypal.me/Indie News Network, at indienewsnow.com, and at the Substacks INNnewsletter.com and indiemediatoday.com. All right, I have got this one. This is all the Epstein stuff. And again, I'm just going to show some headlines here from a few articles that I thought were really important and breeze through them. Then we'll get to lightning round. But this was actually posted into Dissent in Bloom's Substack chat among her subscribers, and I started reading it. I'm like, this is actually pretty good stuff. From a smaller writer that you probably have never heard of called Cackle McShackles, who writes Candace's Substack. Very cute. All right. We already had proof about Epstein. The government knew, the courts helped, and then Congress walked out. Reminding people that Democrats could have been stopping all of this the entire time. Democrats could have been filibustering. Democrats could have been having press conferences. Democrats could have been doing a lot of things. But what they've done is willful inaction by federal agencies that enabled the rape, trafficking, and abuse of vulnerable girls and women. All right. The timing of
I wonder why.
This one. Now, this is the other thing. Now, Doe 1 et al. Versus United States, which is a case filed under Federal Tort Claims Act, okay, by survivors of Jeffrey Epstein's trafficking network. I bet you never even heard of this. The lawsuit alleges that the FBI and Justice Department had years of credible evidence, victim reports, and internal intelligence confirming Epstein's operation, yet they deliberately failed to act. It's not a negligence claim. It's an accusation of willful inaction. All right. But what's really weird is suddenly the court allowed this case to be transferred to Florida, the same jurisdiction that historically protected Epstein and allowed him that sweetheart deal that allowed him to go home at night or to go back to his jail cell at night and go home and work during the day. She says the timing of this venue transfer and procedural reset aligns almost too perfectly with a parallel government narrative shift. In the last few months, Trump's allies and media outlets have been working overtime to pretend there's no Epstein client list, that Trump's name was never involved, and that the public should just move on. Meanwhile, staged Epstein cell footage was released to prove, quote unquote, that he died by suicide, even though the official reports make no coherent sense, and the guards involved, who are all dead now, never faced real accountability. While the court maneuvered to bury this live lawsuit in Southern District of Florida, federal propagandists were manufacturing doubt and distraction. The message was clear. Forget it all. Again. It's kind of like what they tell victims of sexual assault, right? Just act like it didn't happen.
Yeah.
But what they don't want anyone noticing is that the case was about to reach the point of discovery. If that happened, the plaintiffs could have legally forced the release of FBI documents detailing who in government helped Epstein, like Alexander Acosta, who protected him, like Pam Bondi, who blocked prosecution, and who stood to gain. That's what the venue manipulation was meant to prevent. This case is not about Epstein alone. It's about the infrastructure that shielded him. That includes agents, prosecutors, judges, and politicians. Discovery would have peeled back the curtain on just how much that system is bought, blackmailed, and or complicit. This is a really good article. All right, and it's somewhat long. Why was it moved to Florida? Again, because they were about to get discovery. Because the government manipulated venue using a stale legal tactic to create a delay, kick that down the road, and suppress public scrutiny. And now they have until August 25th to supply more documents to the new court. Huh, how about that? All right. The court, this is crazy, right? Justice Department filed a motion to dismiss, arguing improper venue because they claim that D.C. wasn't the proper location because the events in question happened in Florida or New York, not D.C., and that the plaintiffs lived elsewhere. So how could it be federal? On June 16th, the judge actually granted in part and held in abeyance the Justice Department's motion and gave the plaintiffs a choice: dismiss it without prejudice or transfer it to SDNY, Southern District of New York, who they don't want to send it to because they're anti-Trump, or Southern District of Florida, who've been very pro-Trump. On June 30th, they chose to transfer it to Florida. Case closed in D.C. Hey, how about that? Reopened in Southern District of Florida with a new starting case date. And again, what that does is kicks the can down the road. And this lays out a timeline, specifically in real time, of what happened. So on July 25th, the federal government again filed a request to delay their response to the Second Amendment amended complaint. The judge granted it. The Justice Department now has until August 25th to respond, a key stall tactic to avoid entering discovery, which gives more time to coordinate media narratives and political distraction campaigns. And remember, what they also kicked down the road until September is the Luigi trial. That also is going to be a distraction when it comes to the courts and to court records and court reporters. On August 25th, the DOJ must respond to the complainant by this date. If no further delay is granted, which we expect it will, this is the moment that the government either tries to dismiss the case again or is forced into discovery. What they fear are depositions of FBI agents, unsealed records of who protected Epstein, subpoenas of Justice Department internal communications, names buried inside non-prosecution deals, and potential exposure of intelligence agency involvement, which we know they were all involved. They used venue manipulation as a legal crowbar to pry the case out of D.C., where it would be visible, documentable, and politically explosive, and shoved it into Florida, where sealed records, local corruption, and media blackout will bury it. They did the same with Kilmar Abrego Garcia, CCOT deportation lawsuits, and other immigration trafficking cases. This is a really good article. Again, I'm going to link this in the description. I encourage everyone to go back and read the entire thing. But that's fucking crazy. And then we have our friend Michel de Cryptodamus. Now, he also published an explosive article. He doesn't publish much. But Michel published this thing about Epstein and crypto. And all the different people who Epstein was involved with. All right? But you can and should view the original thread's abundance of source references, right? It seemed worth revisiting and slightly updating the information now that Epstein has become such a hot topic again. Right? This post owes heavy debt to some incredible research on touch points between Epstein and various figures in the cryptoverse done by NFT Ethics, one of the literally less than 10 participants in the crypto markets whom Michel doesn't regard as fundamentally evil human being. So you've got Lutnick is involved.
Howard Nutlick.
Right? He was Epstein's neighbor. It's been less widely reported that Lutnick bought a house from Epstein in a transaction some sources have described as bizarre, and it seems to have been pretty much missed entirely by the American media establishment. All right, that Howard Lutnick manages somewhere north of $100 billion, or roughly 1/5 of the military budget of the U.S. for Tether, the central bank of the cryptocurrency economy and the favored financial services provider of criminals, terrorists, and the rogue nuclear states the world over. Justin, son of Tron as well. So again, so that's Lutnick. Then you've got the creepy pedo, allegedly, not so alleged, Brock Pierce. You know, Puerto Rican mogul. I wrote a lot about Brock Pierce, incredibly sordid history and deep connections to things like cryptocurrency, Tether, and the Israeli government last year in his catalog of New York City Mayor Eric Adams' crypto grifting. He mentioned Pierce's connections to Epstein in passing in that post, but there's a bit more to it than the fact that Epstein invited Pierce to speak at the Mindshift conference that Epstein organized in an attempt to rehabilitate his image after the first round of convictions for what we will delicately refer to as the inappropriate touching of minors or sex trafficking of minors. Apparently, Pierce's invitation to speak at Epstein's conference was delivered by none other than Al Sekel, the long-term partner of a woman named Isabel Maxwell. Isabel Maxwell just so happens to be the sister of a woman named, wait for it, Ghislaine Maxwell. Yes, she also is notorious for fucking Bill Gates. Isabel and Ghislaine's father was a man named Robert Maxwell, a notorious UK fraudster who, to quote Wikipedia, quote, had known links to the British Secret Intelligence Service MI6, to the Soviet KGB, and to the Israeli Intelligence Service Mossad, unquote. I'm not going to comment on this further.
Whitney Webb.
I'm not going to comment on this further other than to say, at times I wonder if people are over-indexing the third and under-indexing on the second, especially considering that, according to the Dossier Center, Epstein had proposed a BRICS cryptocurrency as a member of the FSB as early as 2015. Huh. That's interesting. All right. Sure. Now, again, actually, I take that back. I'd also like to point out that in my piece on Brock Pierce and Eric Adams, I called out Jerusalem Post writer and editor Zvika Klein for engaging what to me appeared to be blatant reputation laundering for Brock Pierce, as well before this kind of thing started coming out, as the Qatargate scandal started to rock the Netanyahu regime. Right?
Right.
And while I'm here, why don't I just mention that plenty of people I've talked to refer to Brock Pierce as the gay Epstein. Huh. But he's married. Then you've got Peter Thiel, discussed his relationship with Epstein publicly on numerous occasions, For a long time, Michelle was more or less ready to believe what was the pretty obvious subtext of Thiel's stuttering attempts on explaining himself. Epstein was world-class at helping rich people avoid taxes, and Peter Thiel really hates paying taxes. I did, however, take note of the fact that Thiel allegedly started making large investment in the crypto space around the same year that he allegedly first met Jeffrey Epstein. However, new information was uncovered by the New York Fuck You Times a few weeks ago about Thiel and Epstein's financial entanglements. It turns out Epstein was an investor in Valar Ventures, one of the firms associated with Thiel's adventures in tokenized late-stage capitalism, and one that has done some investing in the crypto space. Again, what a surprise. It's worth mentioning that Thiel is a major backer of Rumble, where we're live right now, or at least he was, according to Chris Pavlovsky. He's had nothing to do with Rumble since 2021, since the SPAC was closed.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't have to.
Nothing to see here.
He can go through his intermediary, Vice President J.D. Vance. He doesn't need to talk to Rumble directly. And I don't know if he's a investor of, Class B or other stock. But again, Chris claims that he liquidated all of his Rumble stock. So I don't know if that's accurate or not. But he was a major backer of Rumble.
How convenient.
Other Rumble backers include luminaries like Vivek Fuck You Ramaswamy, JD Vice President Fuck the Couch Vance, Howard Nutlick, whose firm, Cantor Fitzgerald, has been at times the largest holder and or custodian of Rumble's shares, and, wait for it, Tether, which made an enormous $775 million investment in Rumble relatively recently. In December, by the way, we reported on that on this show. Don't know too many others that fucking did. It should therefore surprise no one that Rumble recently announced it'll allow its users to send money to each other with, wait for it, Tether's USDT tokens. I'm sure all those Rumble USDT transactions will be vetted to prevent abuses by Russian oligarchs and Chinese organized crime groups just as carefully as the rest of Tether's USDT transactions. Right?
Have a good time with your Bitcoin, your crypto, and everything else that you're playing with.
Other Rumble shareholders have included people like America's FBI Director Kash Patel, who needed somewhere to park all the money he got paid for hosting a podcast for the Epoch Times, prior to that company being revealed as a massive crypto money laundering operation for a Chinese cult called Falun Gong. And of course, our DNI Tulsi Gabbard.
Yes, Falun Gong's fucking crazy. Holy shit. Anyway, continue.
Shen Yu, right? They pump their propaganda through that fucking dance thing. All right, we get the flyers in our door here.
Tai Chi, yeah.
Right? And, of course, Tulsi Gabbard, who invested in incredibly sketchy cryptocurrencies that he doesn't even have time to discuss here. But go see that. I'll also note that Tulsi managed to acquire her shares in Rumble shortly before Tether's $775 million investment in the platform pushed up the price, which I'm sure is just another one of those funny coincidences. He couldn't possibly have had some prior insider trading knowledge, right? Also, Dan Bongino. Come on, do you have a Dan Bongino sound bit? Assistant FBI Director
it just takes a second to get it.
Dan Bongino was also one of the largest shareholders of Rumble. He had like the #1 podcast on the platform before he accepted the job. Of course, again, we get to Reid Hoffman. And then if I look further, you've got Larry Summers, and you've got Ehud Barak, and you've got Steve Bannon. And all of the other Epstein and all the other friends. There's more in this NFT ethics, right?
Idiots.
The binder's like full of women, right?
Now, don't they?
Some of the more salacious details, right, include some admittedly pretty tenuous connections to terrifying Russian organized crime bosses like Semyon Mogilevich, who is, of course, a big fan of crypto. You should read their posts about it.
Of course.
All right. I'll leave you to mull over all of this. All right. In the meantime, here's a subscribe button you can hit if you want to learn about things like the on-chain war between Iran and Israel, way before any of America's journalistic class catches on to the fact that it's even happening. Right? So postum scriptum. I'm just going to throw out a few observations about the Epstein situation that have nothing to do with crypto. Epstein is on tape saying he was Donald Trump's closest friend for most of a decade. Jeffrey Epstein being allowed to kill himself is almost as big a scandal as someone coming in and killing him. While not actually on suicide watch at the time of his death, he'd made at least one suicide attempt in the days before he managed to complete the act. Seems like a lot of Sturm und Drang could have been prevented by one of these suicide-proof smocks they use in America's medieval correctional systems. Epstein and Trump are reported to have fallen out over a real estate deal, despite the fact that Trump either sued or was sued by someone almost twice a week, every week, for 43 years prior to being elected president in 2016. He neither sued nor was sued by Epstein, which is extremely sus. The photos of Trump with the 19-year-old he publicly dated when he was in his 40s, roughly concomitant with his relationship with Epstein, are what I might call questionable. But the videos of Epstein and Trump ogling the very young women, combined with recent statements from Epstein's victims and ex-girlfriends regarding their interactions with Trump back in the day, are what we might call alarming. And I'm not sure what we would call Epstein pleading the fifth when asked if he'd ever socialized with Donald Trump in the presence of females under the age of 18. Why would he do that? Number 5, a surprising number of the people who oversaw the administration of justice in Florida when Epstein was doing all the inappropriate touching have ended up in the Trump administrations, past and present. Pam Bondi failed to do anything about Epstein for her entire 8-year reign as the Attorney General of Florida, the state where a lot of the inappropriate touching occurred, and trafficking. And now she's the Attorney General of the United States. Alex Acosta, who personally arranged for Epstein to get off with a slap on the wrist for soliciting prostitution instead of a decades-long felony sentence for abusing children, was appointed by Trump to be the labor secretary. If your tinfoil hat is tuned to the right frequency, you can almost imagine some kind of quid pro quo here. Oh, and while I'm here, let's not forget the fact that the man who gave Jeffrey Epstein his big break in life was Donald Barr, a.k.a. the father of Bill Barr, the Attorney General of the U.S. in Trump 1.0, or at least the last one. Jeff Sessions was the first one. All right, there's more conclusions, and a lot of them. I'm not going to read them all. Here's a prediction. Trump will drop his $10 billion lawsuit against the Wall Street Journal a few days before he's set to be deposed and or is about to be forced to comply with the journal's many and varied discovery demands. Go figure. Bookmark it and hit those restack and like buttons at the top if you enjoyed reading it. All right. A few hours after I published this piece, the Wall Street Journal dropped another bigger bomb on Trump. And that was the one about the letter that allegedly Trump had drawn a picture at a birthday card or something. I don't know. And Trump denies it, of course. And then the last thing I wanted to mention about this, and we're going to skip the lightning round. We'll just go to boats. Crypto industry spending more on lobbying than ever. You know, David Moore, this is sludge.com, read sludge.com. I've been a big fan of these guys. They've been following the money. They really chased all the crypto spending during the 24 election. But as it turns out, crypto is spending even more now because they got what they wanted. And they sense that they're on the 10-yard line, eyeing major legislative wins. The crypto industry is on pace to spend a record amount on federal lobbying, according to a sludge analysis of disclosures covering the first half of this year. This is not an election year. There's no presidential election. There's not even a fucking congressional election. And they're maxing out spending and hitting record levels. Why? Because they're getting something for it. The crypto industry spent more than $18.4 million on federal lobbying in the first half of 2025. Sludge's tally, detailed in a table below, covers all lobbying spending by crypto companies like Coinbase, investment firms like Andreessen Horowitz that lobbied on major crypto bills, and the industry's main trade groups like the Blockchain Association and the Fair Shake PAC, which our friend Golden Monarch has done extensive reporting on. Go follow goldenmonarchdomain.substack.com. The crypto industry is on track to surpass the amount it spent on lobbying in 2024, according to Sludge's analysis. And the full sum is spent to push pro-crypto bills is much higher, such as money spent on grassroots lobbying campaigns to contact members of Congress by the Coinbase-founded advocacy nonprofit Stand With Crypto, which doesn't disclose federal lobbying expenses. Again, how convenient. And this is all being done on pumped speculation with nothing behind it. The growth of these crypto markets, there is zero asset there. Crypto industry lobbyists have been flooding Capitol Hill this month to push through their top legislative priorities, what supportive lawmakers describe as applying light touch regulation to digital assets. Yes, let us do what we want. One bill passed by the House during the GOP's Crypto Week, the Genius Act on stablecoin regulation, was signed into law by President Trump on July 18th. Trump, whose family businesses are launching stablecoin and Bitcoin ventures, said that the bill will make America the undisputed leader in digital assets, and took another victory lap for delivering on his pledge to enact the measure. Another bill, which is the Clarity Act, which is a market structure bill for digital assets that would hand oversight of many crypto projects to the industry's preferred regulatory agency, which I believe is the Commodities Exchange. They passed the House last week in a bipartisan vote. Thanks, Democrat douchebags. 294 to 134, because they're getting bought off too, including Elizabeth Warren. Yesterday, key Senate Republicans released a draft of their version of the bill. So the chart breakdown is here. Here's a breakdown of how much crypto interests have spent on DC lobbying so far this year compared with all 24. Coinbase has been the industry's top lobbying spender this year, as it was last year, spending more than $2.1 million in the first half. All right. They retained dozens of lobbyists with K Street firms to lobby Congress, Treasury Department, other government offices. I don't know why that image isn't popping up, but it must be getting blocked. All right. Many crypto firms are on pace to outspend their federal lobbying last year. The exchange Crypto.com has spent more than $2 million this year, already doubling its 2024 total. And the Silicon Valley firm Andreessen Horowitz has spent more than $1.4 million, putting it on pace to surpass last year's outlay. Like, this is bad. 3 crypto trade groups that pushed for the Genius Act are now trying to push the Clarity Act over the finish line, and they've spent together over $2.1 million on lobbying. So this is very bad. Again, crypto companies buying off our lawmakers to get them friendly legislation. And it's working. Shout out to David Moore of Sludge. I reached out to David and Donnie to do a one-on-one interview about their work and about their publication. And he said they're arranging some things right now, but to reach out back to him in 6 months. And I would be thrilled for the opportunity to sit down with them. Nonprofit, user-funded accountability journalism newsroom, literally 2 guys. I got a lot of respect for them. Mm-hmm. So that's Sludge. Go subscribe. Readsludge.com. All right, everyone. Again, like I said, I'm going to skip through the lightning round. Maybe I'll do it tomorrow. I'll just pre-record it because there are some things that I did want to cover.
Oh.
I will. What do you got?
No, go ahead. You're good.
I did want to very briefly mention our friend Andrew Zygmunt Smith and his daughter Anna Marie. She had a hell of a week, and bless her. And we send our thoughts, our prayers, our our hopes. After meeting with our brain surgery, Anna Marie is going to be getting brain surgery this past Friday to remove a golf ball-sized tumor from her left neocortex. This is a different tumor than the cluster around her brainstem that was treated with proton radiation that we were talking about in the spring. Prayers, of course, would be wonderful, and we sent them. He then gave us another update. All good news. Anna Marie on Friday was out of surgery 4 hours early because the tumor was removed so easily. Thank God. It had regrown and was fully attached to the bone, with almost 0% being inside the folds of her brain, which is about as good of news as they could hope. We couldn't have received better news. She's already awake. Thank you, everyone, for your prayers. And I said, best news I've heard today. Love you guys and keep fighting, champ. He said he can't state how much these small wins truly help. And then we got one more update. Yesterday, Anna Marie was moved out of ICU today and into general ward, which is another really positive step. She ate barbecue ribs and mac and cheese all day, along with a peanut butter milkshake. So she's getting her appetite back. She's got some aches and pains and swelling. Nothing worrying or unusual for getting fucking brain surgery. Fuck cancer. Fuck cancer. Man.
Barbecue ribs.
And this, again, is Anna Marie's GoFundMe. We got about another, I think, almost $1,000 last week. They raised the goal to $9,000. Bless her. And that's our brother Andrew. I love you, man. And I can't even imagine as a dad having to sit there through all this and show strength to your kid. And you got all of us behind you 100%, man. Love you. So support the GoFundMe. This is our new shop where you can pick up some merch also. INN t-shirts and indie t-shirts, and we deserve better psyops. And when a people are occupied, resistance is justified. Fuck you, Israel. All right. And free Palestine. That's a shirt designed by Care Bear. All $20 over at indienewsshop.itemorder.com. You can get it over there. I'll drop that into the chat right now so you can see it. And that will, again, be in the description afterwards. All right. We're just before 11, so it's good timing. All right. Just before 12, sorry. Before we go, if you're able to and it means, please support the media you want to see. That's what we ask you to do. We are user-funded here. Cash App is an app on your phone. $, Indie News Network is our handle, and you can send us money that way. Also, using ko-fi.com/Indie News Network or at paypal.me/Indie News Network. You can also do it at our website at indienewsnow.com. There's Keep the Media Free tab there. And then over at the Substacks, over at INNnewsletter.com, where we are about to go live for Uncensored Boats Smashing into Other Boats. That's a React show. And at IndieMediaToday.com, where this show has been live, and all the clips will be published throughout the week. So please subscribe for free to Indie News Now and INN Newsletter and Indie Media Today, and support within a monthly or annual contribution there if you can. Again, thanks to Descent in Bloom this week, and thanks to Shirley Cooper this week for new subscribers to the newsletters. Man, that was I'm ready to do some crazy boats now. That was crazy. But thank you everyone for bearing with me. I know I talk a lot and I had a lot to say there, and there's a lot of heavy shit. Link to boats. Let's put the link to Uncensored Boats in the description or in the chats for everyone right now.
Yeah. Before
we go live and before we get out of here, so everyone will be able to get to it. Well, you can also go to kick.com/Indie News Network. We'll be live over there. Okay. You can go to rumble.com/C/INN8 the Ocho. Go to Twitch. We're going over at twitch.com/twitch.tv Indie News Network. BitChute. We'll be live at BitChute. You can search us over there. We're also live at Odyssey. So all these different places. We go live to 9 platforms every Sunday.
Twitter, Twitch, Kick,
Twitter, right. Twitter.com/don't say X. Hi, Cynics. Cynics over on Twitter.
Yeah.
All right. We're going to get out of here.
Hello.
Support independent media because we need it more than ever. I'll see you next week. I love you all. And have a good one, everyone.
See you in a bit, fam.
Ciao, baby.
We go party.
No! We just fucking lost the stream.
I think I liked it better being blind, when I couldn't read between the lines, and when I couldn't see the cracks in the structure that lay bare before me the whole time. I think I liked it better back when I suspended disbelief and swallowed pride. I thought I knew the difference in the red from the blue, but they both bleed us so dry. They both bleed us so dry. My favorite songs don't hit the same way. I get to the end of a 4-minute track and I'm only looking back thinking, what did they actually say? I guess this isn't such an awful place. Is that what you want me to say? You prove it's possible to sleep for days, and I still think you're right here awake. The cost of living isn't much to me, but God, it's so hard to say. And when they told you everything was safe, were you safe? Were you safe? Were you safe?